Yes, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you. It is Friday. It is the start of the weekend, and you are listening to the biggest show in the world, the hashtag SBTV Nation and SBTVNation.com. How is everybody feeling? Like I said, it is the weekend. It is Freaky Friday, and I'm looking forward to rocking the mic with you. I am by myself today, but you know what? I'm energized. I got a ton to talk about, and we are going to be bringing in Mr. Dan Stafford to talk some fantasy football with us, fantasy sports, and the whole package, and I am just very excited about that. He's going to be calling in about 20 minutes, so you got your boy Dolo today with you. My man, the dream, as you know, is in beautiful Punta Cana right now, sending me all kinds of photos from there. Big ups to him, man. I know he's probably going to be listening to me today. What is up, player? How are you doing, man? So, guys, listen. The game last night. The San Francisco 49ers looked absolutely horrific, man. I mean, terrible. Seattle Seahawks, you know, you got to give it to them. You got to give them to the offensive line. I'm sure the offensive line heard all the scrutiny on them all week long and all year long, to be exact. You saw it last night that they only have two guys on that lineup, on that offensive line, that were actually in the Super Bowl team of last year. So, you know, they had obviously a lot of adjustments there, trying to get Jimmy Graham back in the game and all that. And they look pretty good. I mean, they had a really good push up front. Were able to get beast mode going right out the gate. I mean, right out the gate, you know, 42 yards and a touchdown. But final numbers on that, obviously, you know, the Seattle Seahawks won that game 20-3. Russ Wilson, not so bad at 84.5 passer rating. He had 18 for 24, 235 yards, averaged about just under 10 yards per throw, and one touchdown, 2 INTs, and both of the INTs were basically similar to punts. I mean, he threw them way down the field. So, you know, in that particular situation, sometimes a punt is better, sometimes catching an interception is a little bit better. But Colin Kaepernick, absolutely horrific, man. 13 for 24, 68.8 passer rating with 124 yards. Yikes. I'll tell you what, guys. You know what? We should have really assessed it. I mean, I didn't get involved in the game last night, but what we should have really assessed the Seattle secondary versus Kaepernick, because he's obviously had success versus teams that are really weak as far as the secondary is concerned. So we should have probably looked at that a little bit deeper. So, you know, we had so much going on yesterday, and I did not just have time to bounce around and look at all that. I personally didn't really like the game anyway, to be completely frank with you. So, hey, it is what it is, man. And the Seattle Seahawks are now 3-4, 1-3 away, and the San Francisco 49ers 2-5, 2-2 at home. So, hey, it's all good, man. We got to journey over to the college slate and see what happened, man, because there was a couple of surprises over there. We had, let's just take a look. Dream sending me some tickets. Nice, kid. What's going on, brother? How are you? All right, so as far as the college slate was concerned, we had a couple of games go down yesterday, a couple of ranked teams popping. First game was the Temple Owls managed to stay undefeated and beat East Carolina 24-14. ECU, the bright spot for them, they had Blake Kemp, their quarterback, obviously 272 yards, 1 touchdown. And let's take a look what Temple did. Their rusher, Jahad Thomas, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not a bad game at all. And the other game that we had was actually a surprise to a lot of different people, man. California, number 20, goes down to UCLA. I'm still salty about UCLA after that loss to Arizona State, guys. That kind of just made me not feel so good. So I could not mess with either one of these games. I got to be completely honest with you. So, guys, as I said, it is Freaky Friday, and we are flying high this morning. Thank you very much for all the beautiful photos so far that are coming our way with the hashtag SBTV Nation, and Angelo Nunes is out there trying to protect his title. What is going on, my brother? Wow. The one... Guys, my Lord. And I got, the cheese. Oh, that one is pretty good, that gift that the cheese just sent me. And we are flying high with all these beautiful photos, guys. Thank you very much. And thank you very much to every single person in all 194 countries that get up in the morning with us, flying high, retweet our show on Twitter. It's at SBTV Nation and SBTVNation.com. Guys, we got a pretty badass lineup coming up. We got to talk about it real quick. So, as you know, as I alluded to earlier, we got Mr. Dan Stafford that's going to be calling in. He's going to be calling in probably in about 15 minutes. We're going to be talking, we're going to be breaking down fantasy sports. Now, I have been an addict to daily fantasy as of late. I did place last night. I was in one of those contests in the NHL where you have 22 players. You got to reach the top 10. I reached 7th. 1 through 10 obviously pay the same amount. So I was able to place with that, and I was very excited about that because I've been tearing it up with the daily fantasy hockey. I'll be right on the money with you on that. The day before was not such a great day, but I managed to get it all back yesterday and then some. So pretty cool, man. I'm just looking forward to talking to him and kind of figuring out a little strategy, kind of what he's looking at over the weekend as far as the NFL and, see if he gets down, if he's going to be getting down with the NBA and all that. Because speaking of the NBA, guys, next Tuesday is opening day. Opening night, I should say. And what we did was we actually stacked our lineup, man. What we did is we've got Mr. Jared Zwerling, who has now announced that he is the senior multimedia writer for the NBA Players Association. My man was on last week or 2 weeks ago. I forgot what it was exactly, but my man is rocking it out there, and that is a true honor to have that position. And my man has been hired. Found out the news yesterday, and he is going to come on to celebrate on our show on opening night. That's Tuesday the 27th. And we're also bringing in Gary Washburn, who is an NBA reporter for the Boston Globe. So we're going to try to get an idea of who's going to make some noise this year, what teams can emerge possibly, and you guys know damn well you're all going to be involved probably in the daily fantasy as far as NBA is concerned. So I think I'm going to be getting involved in that as well. So I'm going to have two going on, and my bride is probably not going to be happy because I'm going to be refreshing my phone every 2 minutes with that whole package. You know what I mean? So, hey, man, you know what? This is what I do now. She's just going to have to deal with it. So it is what it is, and we will keep it moving. Then, next Thursday, the 29th of October, we are bringing in celebrity guest Mr. Vanilla Ice to rock the mic with us. He's a sports fan, guys, so I'm sure he's going to have some stuff to say about the Thursday night game and some of the games moving forward. Don't know which ones he is on, but hey, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about his, he's got a movie coming out with Adam Sandler. He's got a TV show. The guy's managed to stay in the limelight. I mean, realistically, at the end of the day, how many stars or, artists from the 80s have actually emerged and stayed relevant? This dude has. So to get him on the biggest show in the world is pretty exciting to us. So we're very happy to make that work. And Friday, the 30th, the day before Halloween, that's Mischief Night. We've got Sean Devaney, the NBA reporter for the Sporting News. So, guys, next week, we're celebrating the NBA. We're very excited about it, and I'm looking forward to see what my boy LeBron is going to do this week, man, and this year. So, we will rock and roll. So, anyway, thank you very much so far. Hashtag SBTV Nation. Freaky Friday on the ticket right now. Everybody's sending me some stuff. Jason Satterley, she is absolutely gorgeous. And thank you so much for sending me that right from the chive. Nice. Wow, look at all this stuff, guys. You got to check out our page, man. Hashtag SBTV Nation. So, hey, I got the VEV on there. What's up, man? Good morning to you. And my man Deeks Picks has been talking to me about doing some hedging as far as futures are concerned with the New York Metropolitans, the Kansas City Royals, the Toronto Blue Jays, so on and so forth. You guys know that we do got a game tonight, and we've got the Toronto Blue Jays with David Price versus the Kansas City Royals with, I don't know who they're putting on. Let me just take a look. I want to say it was Ventura. Yeah, it's Ventura. Toronto is minus 130 with an under-over of 7.5. For me personally, just the way David Price has pitched, and I'm not sure what the weather is out there. I know it's starting to get a little chilly, and you know how David Price pitches in the cold weather. He's not the best in the world, nor is he the best in the playoffs. So I think for me personally, quick breakdown of this game, I think you sit back and you watch. If I had to lean, I think the Toronto Blue Jays do have the potential to push it to a Game 7. But as far as financially, I think I would recommend, if you're out in Las Vegas, to probably stay away from it, just to watch. Or any other of the 193 countries outside of America. I'll just put it like that. So, speaking of getting involved in a couple of things financially, guys, there was some stuff on here that I was taking a look at earlier, and Sir Rocking Jay. Oh, is that Coco? I think that is Coco on there. Let's see. Winning Picks is on here this morning, sending me photos. Jason Satterley is obviously trying to go after Jason. Who are you trying to go after? Angelo Nunez with his title. Unbelievable. Some of the thickness that is coming my way, man. Guys, we love you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this. TBW as well. The one on the right is actually doing it for me big time this morning, guys. Thank you very much for putting a smile on my face. Rocking and rolling. So there was a couple of props that I wanted to discuss on the show because they're actually really cool, man. So I'm taking a look at a couple of NFL props. And obviously, guys, you know, I love futures. And I love teams to win the whole thing or to win their respective divisions and so on and so forth. Now, I'm looking at the Patriots here. New England Patriots are plus 325 to win the whole thing, to win Super Bowl 50. The Green Bay Packers are plus 335 to win the Super Bowl. The Cincinnati Bengals plus 870. The Denver Broncos 1435. The Arizona Cardinals 1485. Seattle Seahawks 1040. They were actually like up to 15-1 yesterday before that victory at San Francisco. So Carolina Panthers, Killer Cam, 18.75 to 1, and the Indianapolis Colts are 23.75 to 1. Couple of others real quick. The Philadelphia Eagles 26 to 1, the Atlanta Falcons 23 to 1, and the Pittsburgh Steelers 20 to 1. Wow, Pittsburgh, huh? I don't know if I agree with them being favored over the Atlanta Falcons or Philly, but hey, they are 4-2, so we'll see what ends up going down with them. Looking at some of the other props, guys, we got some really, really good stuff here, man. I saw one that's really interesting, and you guys may think I'm smoking crack to talk about this, but how about this one for you? Very interesting. The New England Patriots and the Green Bay Packers will most likely be favored in every game moving forward, correct? Yes or no? I say yes. There's a prop here, 75 to 1. I know this is probably not going to happen, but it's something to look at, man. It is the fact of the New England Patriots and the Green Bay Packers to go 18-0 and play each other in Super Bowl 50. Call me crazy, right? Yeah, that'll obviously never happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but if you think about it, if any of these teams get in trouble with any of the games moving forward, you could just go the other way. Just think about it. 75 to 1. Not bad at all. So something to take a peek at. I don't think either. I mean, that would be kind of epic if both teams did go 18-0 and make it to Super Bowl 50. But another thing we got to look at here. So the Patriots going 16-0 in the regular season is 6 to 1. The New England Patriots going 18-0 and being the AFC champion is 10 to 1. New England Patriots going 19-0 as the Super Bowl champion, 13 to 1, and Green Bay 16-0. As a regular season without going into the playoffs, 15 to 1, 18-0 as the NFC champion, 23 to 1, and 19-0 as the Super Bowl champion, 32 to 1. I don't know, guys. You know what? Call it junky-ish, but I think those are pretty badass situations. I got to be completely honest with you with that. But big ups to everybody. Marlon. Oh. Thank you for coming to light with that one, guys. And, hey, big ups to you on your hockey, how you been doing out there, man. So let's see what else we got going on here. So I want to talk real quick, guys, about, teams that we think can make the playoffs in the NFL. All right, because I'm trying to find some sleepers to get involved with as far as backing all this stuff up, and I think we need to have a quick conversation about who can make the playoffs and who will not. Now, if you take a look at the NFC North, you got the Green Bay Packers, obviously 6-0, so chances are, I think you got almost like a 95% chance that this team is going to make the playoffs. I think we're all agreed on that. Minnesota Vikings 3-2, Chicago Bears 2-4, probably not. Maybe Minnesota sneaks in as a wild card. I doubt it, but Philadelphia Eagles, this is probably the NFC South of last year, but now is classified as the NFC East. Philadelphia Eagles are 3-3. The New York Giants are 3-3. The Dallas Cowboys are 2-3. Who's going to emerge out of that division? Wow. I don't really know there, man, because all of these teams are kind of dusty. I think that Philadelphia may win this division, but hey, we'll see what ends up going down. I got to kind of take a look at their schedule moving forward and see what happens. The Carolina Panthers in the NFC South are 5-0, and followed by Atlanta at 5-1. The way this is going right now, you would think that Carolina and Atlanta would make the playoffs. So if you look at this and then go into the NFC West, you've got the Arizona Cardinals, who are in the division lead at 4-2, and the Seattle Seahawks with a losing record at 3-4. So right now, at this time, looking at the records and moving forward, I got to look further at their schedules. I know that Arizona has to play Seattle twice, but when you look at this, you're probably going to end up seeing Green Bay, Philadelphia, Carolina, Arizona as emerging as their division winners, with Seattle and Atlanta as wild cards. Now, that means Seattle would have to play on the road. But all I'm looking at is teams to get into the playoffs. That's all I want. And I'll explain further later on in the year of what my method behind my madness is on that. Big ups to everybody. Lewis Carter out there. What's going on, guys? What I will do is I will announce your name at the end of the show if you are retweeting us. And thank you, Marlon, for that little two-piece that you just sent me, man. Love it. Love it, love it, love it, man. All right, so over to the AFC. Let's just have a quick conversation about this. The Cincinnati Bengals are 6-0, followed by the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 4-2, followed by the Browns 2-4, and the Baltimore Ravens, believe it or not, 1-5. Wow, ugly football that they are playing. You almost got to forecast the Cincinnati Bengals getting into the playoffs, especially the way they've been playing. I mean, come on. I mean, if I would say that you got to win at least 10 to 11 games to make it in. So, another 4 to 5 wins, they're in. So when you look at that, you're probably going to see Cincinnati in there. As far as New England, they are 5-0. Obviously, this team, I mean, I want to say we got like a 100% chance or 99.9% chance that this team will make the playoffs. So I think we're all in agreement on that. Fast Eddie, wow. Thank you guys. Is that Dolly Castro on there? I think that is. And that's my girl. You already know that. Oh, man. Guys, check it out. SBTV Nation hashtag. Take a look at it, and it will definitely put a smile on your face on this beautiful Freaky Friday morning. So let's take a look at some other ones here, guys. It's hard for me to stay focused with all the beautiful Freaky Friday photos coming in, but I'm doing my best. The New York Jets, 4-1. Can they make the playoffs? They got to play the Patriots this week, so I guess we'll see a little bit about them, see if they really are that good or if their record, if they've just played some nasty teams. The Indianapolis Colts, I think we can pretty much bank on them making the playoffs because they're in that division with Houston and Tennessee and Jacksonville and so on and so forth. So I think we could put some money on the Colts making the playoffs. I think you all agree with me on that. And then you're looking at the other division, the AFC West. You got Denver. Oakland is 2-3. Denver 6-0. So when and Kansas City, believe it or not, 1-5 with the Chargers right behind them at 2-4, guys. So when you look at this particular situation and how we think this may shake out, I'm looking at obviously the Patriots being in, obviously Denver being in. Most likely you're going to see Cincinnati in there. Let's just see what else we can take a look at here as far as playoff teams. Hold on one second. Let me just switch this up while I'm doing this, and we will look at it right now. Doing 100,000 things at once, guys. So just bear with your boy. Most radio stations have a producer. They got somebody playing the music. All they got to do is pull up the odds and read them off, man. So I'm doing Freaky Friday. I'm doing the whole package here. So if I'm looking at it here as far as the AFC is concerned, I'm thinking Bengals, Patriots, Colts, Broncos, playoff teams. We're looking at possibly Pittsburgh Steelers, and as crazy as this sounds, either the New York Jets or Buffalo. That's what I'm looking at, man. Pretty interesting. So take a look at all these teams, guys. Let's jot them down and watch them throughout the year and see what they do. I think we got a really interesting game with New England and the Patriots coming up, guys. So it might be pretty good, man. So we'll take a look at it. Lewis Carter, man, yeah, definitely, man. There's a lot of different stuff on here. Guys, 36 retweets of the show already. My God. Thank you very much for rocking and rolling with us, man. And I'm waiting for Dan Stafford to come in, and we are going to talk some fantasy and go from there. So looking at this here, as far as the college football playoff and the odds are concerned, I want to take a look at what some of the future odds are as far as that is concerned, because there's a team that your boy is considering taking a look at, and that is the Baylor Bears. You know what, guys? Beginning of the season, I was looking at this team, and you know how I feel about all these potent offenses. And, you know, for me personally, I looked at Oregon last year and what they did. We talked about this several times, and I saw Oregon obviously lay an egg versus the Ohio State University in the championship game. But I think I have to agree with the Dream on this particular play. I think the Baylor Bears are for real. I think they're for real, and I think they could get the job done at 7-1. I think they can not only win a first game of a playoff, but possibly make it to the championship. And I don't know who they would play. They have to get by TCU, Skeeto. That's the key, man. Right now, you can pick them up at 7-1 to win the whole thing, man. Let me just take a look at what their schedule is coming up, man, because I think a lot of you guys are starting to believe in this team. And I am believing in them as well. Obviously, you got the Iowa State Cyclones this week, which they're giving a whole hell of a lot of points. Let me get my man in here, and we will have a quick conversation with Dan Stafford about this and go from there. Good morning. Do I have Mr. Dan Stafford on the line this morning?
You do.
How we doing, brother?
Doing all right. How about you guys?
Fantastic, man. Thanks. Great having you back, man. We enjoyed it last time.
Same here. I'm glad to be back.
Oh, definitely. So, Dan, did you do any fantasy hockey?
I do. I dabble. I am not. I'm in no way an expert in that arena. I do like to play when I have some extra time to research during the day, which doesn't come too often.
Yep.
The beauty of hockey is typically their bigger slates are on slower slates for the NBA throughout the winter, so it gives you an opportunity to sort of move over and see what tournaments are going on. But I enjoy watching the NHL more than I like playing the NHL, to be quite honest.
I got it. Dan, just in case anybody missed last time, just a little bit about your resume and about yourself, please.
Sure. I've been playing fantasy sports for about 15, 20 years now. I worked at SiriusXM hosting a show over there for fantasy baseball, mainly season long, but we did a lot of daily fantasy as well. And I co-host the GPP Breakfast of Champions, as we call it,
nice.
Which is our daily fantasy podcast over at fantasyinsiders.com.
All right, fantastic. Well, I have to be honest with you. Ever since we had that last show, I have become a daily fantasy addict. And I am, loving it every single day, and I've been doing very well with the NHL. The NHL is really – I love those 50-50s.
That's where you got to start. And I think that's – we talked last time about the entire current landscape and environment of daily fantasy. And if you listen to major publications and major television stations, the sky is falling and everything is wrong in the world. But you're doing it right. Doing the 50-50s, doing head-to-heads, playing those what we call cash games, and not chasing the big prize pools is the way to get started in daily fantasy and build up your bankroll and make that transition into a bigger bankroll. I'm all about bankroll management. It's about playing the money you have. It's much like the stock market or going to the grocery store. You can't spend more than you have. So if you are conscious of, hey, I have $100, I'm going to play $10 a day, or 10%, I should say, of my bankroll every day, you can't go bankrupt. Infinitely, you keep going on. So playing hockey, playing 50-50s, it's fun. And I think that's what's lost a lot of the time, too, is fantasy sports should be fun. Yeah, there's money to be made, and yes, there are large amounts of money to be made. But if you're not having fun and if you're not enjoying it, I don't get the point of doing it.
Absolutely not. I mean, definitely. You don't need people, sitting there pouring their life savings into these accounts. You know what I mean? By
Absolutely.
Any means. I love the bankroll management situation. It's always been, we've always preached that here at our show. And, when you take a look at this, and guys, just so you know, in case you're not familiar with daily fantasy and what a 50-50 is. So basically what it is you have 10 or 20 players, 10, whether it's 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever it ends up being, as long as you finish in the top half of your respective contest, then you will double your money. So if you put $10 in and you're in a contest with 10 other players, you got to finish in the top 5 and you'll win $20. So that's pretty much how it goes. So, and then what they do is all this stuff that you're seeing on TV, those are all the big ones where you're putting in $3 with hopes of catching first place and winning $1 million and so on and so forth. Very, very difficult. You have to almost pick you have to pick the perfect team, Dan, in that situation.
You have to come pretty darn close. Yeah, you'll see in a lot of these winning large tournament lineups, ownership percentages down in the single digits on at least 2 or 3 guys. And and this is funny, a lot of daily fantasy guys want to stay away from the word luck, but there's some luck to that. Even if you're multi-entering, you're entering 200 lineups, you can only cover so many scenarios. Maybe in one lineup you have the right quarterback and wide receiver, but maybe you don't have the right running back, or you don't have the right tight end if you're playing on different sites, or maybe even on FanDuel you don't have the right kicker, and that can really add some variance into what you're doing. So in those large-scale tournaments, you need to be almost perfect. You're absolutely right. And I know why that's where the advertising goes. I know, much like the lottery, hey, $1 and a dream is what we've heard our entire lives. But I'd love to see throughout this process and what daily fantasy is going through, the change in, hey, come play the 50-50s, come play the head-to-heads, come play the double-ups, and have fun doing it as a very specific marketing campaign rather than, hey, you can win $1 million. You can. It's probably not probable, but you can win $1 million.
Well, here's what I've been doing. Here's my strategy. So what I've been doing is I've been doing the 50-50s, but then I've been sprinkling a few dollars in the big contests.
Absolutely.
And the problem with that I had, 3 nights ago, I finished first in a 50-50, and that was the one day that I did not put the few dollars into the big tourney. And my fantasy hockey team was an absolute beast. And I'm so upset at myself because I would have definitely finished. I looked at some of the score. I would have finished probably in at least the top 20.
Right. And what we all go through, we've all had those moments. It's the bad beat moment playing poker. Everybody has their story, whether it's a player getting injured or not entering the right contest or not playing, quote unquote, enough money on the night your lineup goes off. The thing I preach and the thing I've learned from some of the great guys that I get to work with is you focus down on a process, on a ritual, on whatever word you want to use, but you do it every day. And that's where daily fantasy, and I think it's tough. I work full-time and I do this daily fantasy stuff part-time. It's tough to play every day, and it's tough to set lineups, and people don't want to hear that because it's fantasy sports, but it's a lot of work. You're putting in a lot of effort, and you're putting your money out there. Right. But if you can get into a rhythm where you're playing, say, 5 50-50s a day, $5 50-50s, and then 10% of that, maybe $2.50 or $3, goes into a large-scale tournament. This way, if you have your situation, if you have that lineup that goes off, you're that much better off for it, but you're also hedging to a certain extent. You're not playing too much in a tournament and trying to chase that big prize. You're playing the smaller stakes. You're trying to build up the bankroll so that someday you can go into these larger-scale tournaments with a couple of teams or into multiple large-scale tournaments.
Right, and I've seen some of them that are like $5,000 to enter.
Yes, so you have you have multiple levels of play. I know a couple of guys who play head-to-head for $5,300. So it's a $5,300 entry to play, and the winner takes home, I think, $10K, and then $600 goes to the site. So there are varying levels of play, and that's one of the big debates now, too, of where should these quote-unquote pros be playing? Should they be playing in the $100 head-to-heads, the $100 double-ups, or can they play in the $1 or $2 or $5 double-ups that the new players are playing in? And I think that's something that will work itself out over time, and people will start to find their niche and understand where they should be playing. But there are large contests. There are a lot of money being put in and taken off of these sites on a daily basis, and you can see some quick action go on in that large-scale sort of pro-level price tag.
Absolutely, and it's my understanding that some guys are like leaving Wall Street jobs and stuff like that to play daily fantasy. Is that true?
It is. So you have sort of a varying degree of people. Somebody who won $1 million last year on DraftKings was a former analyst. He works full-time. He's actually a content provider, too. He's great. But, yeah, people are saying, I can have a lucrative run right now doing this. And if you look at it, there's science and math behind all this. And there's a user out of Boston, I'm not going to name names right now, but who does all algorithms. It's all numbers. It's all number crunching. It's all data science and data mining and scripting, and not the negative scripting, but sort of the scripting of lineups and seeing what the variance is and seeing what optimal is and entering as many as they can. And I think a lot of Wall Street day traders and Wall Street traders in general have the same sort of sense about them that goes into being a successful day trader or successful trader in general. Applies very well to daily fantasy as well.
Awesome. You got to love the situations when what you're in when, like, let's say you're already in the top 10 and you have more minutes left with your players than anybody else. How awesome is that, man?
The fun thing, especially with football now, is you'll see a lot of people call it the Monday Night Hammer, where there's a good Monday night game and you're already leading or you're already in sort of the cash, and then you have, say, Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald going Monday night. That's a good feeling. You know, that's when you can point to those extra minutes that you have, or if you're playing NBA or NHL like you've been playing, if you have a bunch of Ducks going, Anaheim Ducks, and you know they're in a prime spot to score a lot of goals that night, that's such a great thing to focus on. Now, sometimes it doesn't come through. Sometimes they get shut out, and you have to deal with whatever cashing or non-cashing you end up coming to. But it is a great feeling to be able to focus on that.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, I noticed that there's some guys on there that I don't know if they just want their name posted first or whatever, but like they'll do like a weekend contest and have all their players go on Thursday night.
So that's the interesting thing right now with the NFL. I don't know why you do that. I don't know if it's a simple, I'm going to hope that this game goes off. Like Seattle, San Francisco, basically what the guys at FI have taught me and what I try to do is typically you fade the Thursday night game. It's usually lower scoring. These teams are coming off short weeks.
Sure.
Defense is better. Maybe if you want to take one of the defenses, fine. But you're right. You see them playing 7 or 8 guys from these games, and I think the hope is that game happens to go off and you happen to have all those guys going into the weekend, but that's rarely the case. I actually played a bunch of lineups where I faded the day altogether, focused on Sunday, but entered Thursday lineups, honestly, with the hope that I'd face off against a couple of guys who incorrectly rostered a bunch of Thursday night guys, and luckily that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the only one last week with the Saints was Watson at tight end. He was the only one that had a lot of points. I mean, Ingram was okay. Breezy wasn't that good. So I agree with you with fading the Thursday night game. I think you're onto something with that.
It's something to keep an eye on. And, of course, you're going to have the outlier. You're going to have a Thursday night game that's 45-37. And when it comes to process, you can't stay results-based. You have to keep pushing forward and know that over time the numbers bear out that Thursday night games are lower scoring. They're getting better teams involved. In the past, when it was just sort of that NFL Network game,
sure,
it was sort of the dregs of the schedule was playing up Thursday night. Yep. But still, I'd stay away 9.5 times out of 10.
Sorry, I'm just taking a swig of coffee and spilled it all over the place. All right, I'm having a hard. I'm having a real hard time placing in NFL and NCAA football. I'm struggling with them.
So NFL is gigantic, and you're going to run into week over week just so many lineups being there, and that causes you more trouble cashing. The big thing to focus on for me for the NFL and what I've been trying to do is get the one quarterback wide receiver pairing right if I'm going into tournaments, so that maybe this weekend somebody like Palmer and Fitzgerald, who I know are highly efficient, have high floors but also high ceilings. So you know that Palmer and Fitzgerald combined, or Palmer and even John Brown out there, if John Brown is healthy, can give you sort of those gigantic scores. From a cash game perspective, from head-to-heads and 50-50s like you're talking about, it's really finding the right balance of not overspending in any spot. You run into guys like Rob Gronkowski, who is such a good play week over week at tight end, but he hasn't delivered. Right. So if you're invested in Rob Gronkowski and he's not giving you the points you need, you're going to find it harder and harder to cash against somebody that maybe played Travis Kelce or even all the way down to someone like Tim Wright, who had a couple of catches and a touchdown last week. It's about being as balanced as possible. It's about developing a plan to understand quarterbacks in the best spot, and maybe focusing at times on running backs who give you enough value. Running backs is all about volume in the NFL, right. Especially. You need to have that lead back who you know is going to get 25 to 30 carries or going to get 8 to 10 targets on DraftKings where you're dealing with PPR. College football, the one thing I can tell you is follow our writer, Ben Pritchett. He is just honestly money. Like Ben, who writes college football over on Fantasy Insiders, along with a user, I'm going to use a username here because he doesn't give out his real name, but Fear My Turtle is the other writer at Fantasy Insiders, and these guys just are on it. It's a lot of content to understand. There are a lot of teams out there, and what happens in college football more than anything is everybody wants to play the Baylors and the right. Ohio State players and the name teams. What Ben does a great job of is finding those underlying plays, those guys who are wide receiver twos on places, guys who are running backs by committee but are in a spot to be more part of the game plan this week. College football is a lot of research and a lot of following beat writers on Twitter and understanding injuries, but I can't say enough good things about what Ben does. We do a show every Thursday night at 11 over on Spreecast. It's available now on iTunes via our Fantasy Insiders channel. I would point everybody there for amazing college football content from Ben.
Oh, that's great, man. I know that Coleman has been a beast for Baylor as far as the wide receiver position. He has been just absolutely ridiculous between him and Seth Russell. I mean, but they're so expensive, though, too. Right. You know what I mean? So the problem and the problem, the challenge that I have is, like, I want to say it was 2 weeks ago where Baylor pulls players out the first half because they're already up 40 points.
Right. And so you have a similar situation this weekend. I think they're 37.5-point favorites.
Right.
So you can run quickly into they're up 35 in the first half. Do they run their best wide receiver back out there in the second half and risk injury? No, they're going to sit him. If you're going to play them, you hope that either the defense they're playing against is good enough to hang close enough for long enough, or you hope that Baylor's defense is bad enough
right.
to keep the other team in the game. That's what happens with Texas Tech a lot. Their defense is not very good at times, so you have Texas Tech putting up gigantic offensive numbers, but the other teams stay in it. With Russell and Coleman, we talked about that a lot last night on the show, actually, you need them to perform. You can't have Coleman go out and be 9,600 on FanDuel or even above that on DraftKings and give you 120 and a touchdown, because that's just not going to pay off for you. It's not going to give you enough value for those dollars, especially in college football where you have so much underlying value in cheaper prices. Now, you can also make the other side of the argument if you're playing tournament-wise, that you go for the home run. You go for the gigantic game for Russell and Coleman, and then fill in with min-price or minimum salary guys around them who you think are in good spots as well to outperform. That's sort of a boom or bust, stars or scrubs, whatever sort of phrasing you want to use there, approach. But again, from a cash game perspective, I want balance. So somebody like Coleman, somebody like Russell probably won't be in my plans this week in cash games, just because I want to be able to afford 2 wide receiver 2s, RB2, and then RB1 and wide receiver 1 if possible. Pay cheap on FanDuel for a tight end. On DraftKings, you don't need a tight end, but you can find a lot of cheap wide receiver talent in that tight end pool. So what DraftKings did was introduce a lot of the tight ends that you see on FanDuel are introduced as wide receivers on DraftKings, and they're really cheap. So somebody like Tyler Higbee typically is somebody that is dirt cheap from a wide receiver perspective on DraftKings, but plays at tight end and is pretty efficient at the position.
Sure, absolutely. And, I'm taking a look at this. I mean, if you were to get Coleman and Baylor's QB, I mean, it ends up being like $18,000 out of $50,000. So, I mean, right there, you're like 30% of your bankroll is already done.
It's the same thing we encountered with Clayton Kershaw during the baseball season.
Yeah.
Do you pay up for Kershaw? Now, the variant's a little bit different, and there are more options at quarterback in college football. I'm not making the direct comparison between Russell and Kershaw or Coleman and Kershaw. But to a certain extent, Coleman is getting to that rarefied air where he is head and shoulders above the rest of the competition, where he just puts up enormous stats week over week, and it doesn't matter who his competition is. And maybe it is a little Kershaw-esque. And you make the decision. Can you fade them? Can you be on the other side of that on a week-over-week basis? In cash games, you may see Coleman ownership higher because he's been so good. And can you risk him having that big game and not being on him? Or can you pay up for him and figure out the rest so that if he does go off and he's 60% owned, you're in that ownership, and if he doesn't go off and he's 60% owned, you're not as dinged because only 40% of people didn't have him.
Right, and as far as going back to college football, I mean, the top 10 offenses right now are Baylor, Texas Tech, TCU, Bowling Green, Houston, Tulsa, believe it or not, Cincinnati, Arizona, Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers, and Memphis. So I know at Western Kentucky, a lot of their players get drafted.
Yeah. On a pretty regular basis. This week, I don't know that you'll see nearly as much Western Kentucky exposure. They may actually be good tournament options with their matchup against LSU this week. So Brandon Dowdy is solid. I mean, he's a really good quarterback who has been very efficient for a lot of daily fantasy owners. You have Anthony Wales, who's their running back. You had DeAndre Furby, who was one of their running backs who has been doubtful for a couple of weeks, who is pretty solid as well. At LSU,
right.
Is that a game you want to hope the best from Western Kentucky, or do you assume that LSU, a pretty staunch defense over their lifetime, will come out and sort of put the brakes on Western Kentucky? But the names you mentioned, the top 10 teams, that's where you go. That's where you're looking for offense. Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor. You mentioned Cincinnati. Cincinnati actually is a fun one because they play a lot of Thursday and Friday games this season.
Yep.
So you're getting them on sort of those odd slates where maybe it's a Thursday-Friday slate or just a Friday slate where you can pick and choose some of their top players. But all those names you mentioned are the guys that get a lot of the focus week over week from daily fantasy perspective.
Absolutely. So just two questions here. So we got the NBA starting on Tuesday, and I'm sure I'm going to be getting involved in that just as much as I am with hockey. Now, are you, as a fantasy guy that's been playing for 15 years, are you going to sit back and kind of watch like the first few games of the NBA just to kind of see who's performing and who's coming off the bench and that? Or are you just going to dive right in?
Well, it's kind of a little bit of both. I'm not going to play high volume the first week. That's any sport for me when it comes to daily fantasy. I do like to see some trends. But on the other side of that, if you are efficient with your research and do what you need to, you can make some money that first week because a lot of people are diving in and who aren't NBA guys. People who are playing a lot of NFL and maybe just want to watch another game or have action on a Wednesday night may jump in when they don't really know what they're doing. But I'm somebody who waits a little longer, likes to see trends, likes to see rotations those first couple of games. Because preseason's great, but much like any sport, you don't get a ton of information on who's going to be the sixth man or who's going to be even the seventh man off the bench or who's starting at small forward for a lot of teams or are they actually running a proper 1 through 5 or maybe are they going small typically. And again, not to trumpet FI guys, but Dave Lochran over at Fantasy Insiders is an amazing NBA analyst. He and another guy, Davis, have done a great series that I would love for you to check out. It's called The Blueprint on iTunes. And it's sort of the step-by-step way to get into NBA DFS, and it's 10 short episodes.
Cool.
Really has been a great listen, and I'm kind of upset I'm not a part of it because it's been that good, and it's gotten such a great reception. But if you're looking to sort of understand the process and understand matchups and understand valuations and per 36s and get into the idea about matchups and pace of play and volume, and they knock it all out of the park. So I would certainly suggest that for listening pleasure when you're jogging or when you're driving or whatever it may be that you do at your leisure time.
Awesome. Guys, right now you are listening to Mr. Dan Stafford from FantasyInsiders.com ripping up the mic with your boy, the Mad Hatter, this morning. We're having a good time, man. I love talking fantasy with you.
I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun, and I think that's what we keep coming back to, right, is that it's fun to do, it's fun to talk about. It can be a hobby, it can be a part-time job, it can be a full-time job for some, and it's been a lot of fun to get into, both season-long and daily. I mean, I do both still. Daily fantasy has been more of a focus of late, but season-long baseball will always be a part of what I do, which most people have grown at. They don't understand why of all the sports I'm into, I stay with season-long fantasy baseball, but it's too much of a passion to stay away from.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And one more question for you. So I think this is where I've kind of gone down in flames as far as the NFL fantasy is concerned. So what I've been looking at is offensive and defensive rankings as far as, versus the rush, versus the pass. Mm-hmm. And it's just not materializing. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, the New York Giants have one of the worst pass defenses in all of the NFL. Them and the Raiders. So, usually I look at the first thing I'll do is look at, one of their opposing quarterbacks. So, we had Sam Bradford last week versus the Giants, and he just did not perform. I know he had 280 yards, one touchdown, but a couple of picks. Loves throwing interceptions. Loves it. I was just... Yep, go ahead.
He is a big fan of that, yeah.
Yeah, man. It's almost like, I was just hoping that he would have, the 300-yard day with a couple of different touchdowns. So, I mean, is that something that you add into your repertoire? Do you take a look at the teams as far as what their rush and pass defenses are?
Absolutely. I think you can get lost. To me, any statistic is great and can also be misleading at the same time. So if you let one stat drive your narrative, drive how you're trying to pick players, you're probably going to be hit or miss. You're going to have a 50, 60% return rate because there's no one stat that tells you the entire story. Right. Unfortunately for me as well, Sam Bradford's just a terrible quarterback right now.
Right.
And so even if he was playing against the Rutgers secondary in college football, he probably still would have struggled because he was bouncing the ball to Jordan Matthews multiple times.
Awful.
It was awful. It was terrible. I was on him as well. It was a bad week last week. You're right, though. You need to focus on those sort of defense against offense statistics, offense against defense. You want to look at efficiency. You want to look at targets. You want to look at red zone options, and make sure people are in a good spot to succeed. It's not going to work out sometimes. Defense example one is Sam Bradford. Evidence one is Sam Bradford that sometimes the best laid plans don't work out. I do think you're onto it. What the guys over at FI do and what a lot of these analysts for daily fantasy do is dive a little bit deeper, look at cornerback matchups, cornerback efficiency for wide receivers, linebacker efficiency for tight ends. Oakland is terrible against tight ends. Their middle is pretty terrible. Seattle's been really bad against tight ends so far this year, too. So those are sort of the sneaky matchups. The same goes for NBA. Yeah, you can check, okay, this defense isn't very good, but maybe their small forward is Luol Deng from 2009, who's a great defender, but the rest of the defense stinks. So maybe I shouldn't play their small forward against them, even though their total defense is giving up 109 points per game. On the other side, maybe I'm facing off against the Spurs, but their shooting guard is a terrible defender. That matchup sounds good. I'm going to get my points there. Same goes to the NFL, where the Seattle defense has this label and has this understanding as being a great defense, but their middle is pretty soft right now. So if you can get a tight end like Greg Olsen going against them last week, it was a good spot, a good play, and you had it pay off for you.
Got it. So, and one more question for you. As far as the collegiate slate here, we actually have two of the top offenses in college football going head-to-head tonight, Dan. We have Memphis versus Tulsa. And Tulsa is, let me see, Tulsa's number 6, Memphis number 10 as far as offensive yards per game. Are you thinking about fading any of these players tonight or what?
So tonight I didn't play any Thursday, Friday games. I was focused on a show and trying to focus on Saturday, and I just didn't have a good feel for it. But it's a 2-game slate if you're playing just Friday, and you're going to need a ton of Paxton Lynch exposure from Memphis. Dane Evans on the other side of that is somebody, and then you have Pumphrey playing tonight for San Diego State. You have some options here. It's going to be a high-scoring night, so it's sort of a buckle in and watch your score skyrocket with these 2 games going on. But no, I don't think you can stay away. If you're maybe playing a Friday, Saturday, which I don't know if those exist on either site. Maybe on a smaller site they do to make a bigger slate. I could see these guys being under-owned in a larger slate, or maybe even a Thursday, Friday on DraftKings where you can late swap. Might pull in some value there, but I think you're going to see 2 high-scoring games tonight, which is sometimes the great fun of college football.
Sure, absolutely. Under-over of 76.5 with Memphis minus 10.5.
Yeah, I might lean over there. These sort of nighttime games, special sort of circumstance on campus. And that's a lot of narrative. That's not a lot of analytics there, but I tend to push the over there and look for a high-scoring game.
Both teams average over 500 yards per game offensively.
Yep.
Tulsa 551 and Memphis 533. So, yeah, I think I agree with you. But 76.5 points. My God.
Yep.
I mean, it was like there was another game that was like 89 the other day. I forgot who it was.
The Texas Tech TCU or Texas Tech Baylor, whichever matchup that was. Yeah,
it was crazy, man, and it went over.
Yeah,
it went over. It was nuts. And we got Utah State and San Diego State tonight. Utah State minus 5, under over a 44.5. Nasty game. That's a nasty game.
I think you're going to see points there too, though. Pumphrey, I think, is the real deal at running back for San Diego State. He has put up some gigantic numbers week over week when he's on the daily fantasy slates. San Diego State not always involved if their games are on Saturday. They have to limit how many games they offer, obviously, but he's over 100 yards rushing 3 games in a row, and he's getting targets as well in the pass game. Has a TD receiving and a TD rushing last week, 3 TDs rushing 2 weeks ago. He's the real deal, and somebody that in season-long college football, if you happen to be somebody who plays that, or in daily fantasy, I'm not gun-shy in picking up and riding as much as I can.
Very impressive win for Utah State last week versus Boise State, 52-26.
Yeah, there's a lot of good football going on out in Utah. That is for sure this college football season.
Absolutely. Who's your pick to win the college football playoff this year?
Until Ohio State falters, I'm going to stick with them, and I know that's very chalky, and I apologize for that, but they just have so much talent, and now that they've finally chosen J.T. Barrett to be their starter, and they're not screwing around with Cardell Jones or J.T. Barrett, I think that's a big push forward. We talked a lot, again, on the podcast last night. Now, unfortunately for me, I'm a Rutgers alum, so I'm going to have to watch J.T. Barrett and that team pick apart the young Rutgers secondary tomorrow night. But until Ohio State shows me that they are not able to win in a variety of ways, running the ball, passing the ball, defense, I don't see anybody really topping them when push comes to shove. Baylor's a lot of fun to watch. I just don't know if they have the defense that they'll need to come up in crunch time.
Got it. And speaking of Rutgers, they do score a lot of points, though. So that point spread may be a little off as far as the Ohio State University.
It may be, and that's if Chris Laviano has a good game, then Rutgers will be in this one. And I don't mean in this one like they're going to win it. I don't think that's going to happen. But a 21.5 point spread at home on a Saturday night game, again, talking that sort of narrative, I think this game will be a lot closer in the first half than people expect. I expect Ohio State to win by 3 scores, but I don't know if it's 21.5. I think it might be more of a 17 point win, a 41-24 or so, somewhere in there. Now, I could be completely wrong, and Ohio State could blow Rutgers' doors off from the jump, but it just feels as though that spread might be a little bit too high.
Ohio State hasn't covered a spread. I think they covered 2 out of 7. So whatever, it is what it is. Guys, this is Mr. Dan Stafford. Can you tell everybody where to find you? I love having you on, man. It's great kicking with you.
Sure, thanks, man. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Strafford. Pretty straightforward there. And the podcast I co-host, is available every morning around 8 a.m. On iTunes, Monday through Friday. And then we have Spreecasts Thursday at 5 and Friday at 5 for the NFL. That's over at Spreecast.com. And on Thursday night at 11 p.m. is the college football, which I host. And you can find all that information at Fantasy Insiders on Twitter.
Fantastic. And before I let you go, any lean on Toronto Blue Jays, Kansas City tonight?
You know, this is tough. I love watching Kansas City play baseball just because they're sort of the anti-team at this point. Anti-power team. They do all the small things right. But I think Toronto is going to come storming back in this series. It'll be fun if Toronto makes it because we'll have the R.A. Dickey teams going against each other in that trade where it seems more and more the Mets fleeced the Blue Jays. But I think the Blue Jays even this up, and we're going to have a Game 7 when all is said and done.
I don't think anybody's beating the Metropolitans, though.
I'm with you. I'm a Yankee fan at heart, but I have so many Mets fans. I'm so happy to see this team. They have the pitching. They have the timely hitting right now. They're playing good defense, and apparently Daniel Murphy is Superman. So when you have Superman on your team, I don't think you can lose.
Absolutely not. Dan, thank you so much for calling. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
Have a good one. All right, guys, so that was my man, Mr. Dan Stafford. Make sure you give him a follow. We put it on the original tweet that we are actually going to be announcing everybody's names momentarily who has retweeted our show, and we very much appreciate him coming on and kicking it with your boy, the Mad Hatter, man. So, guys, taking a look at this. All right, so as far as the games are concerned tonight, I don't really have an opinion on a side. I think that Memphis is better than Tulsa. I think Memphis gets the job done. I mean, the line is 10.5. You know how I feel about home team underdogs on prime time. But obviously it blew up in your face if you lived by that philosophy last night with the San Francisco 49ers. But taking a look at this, I think Memphis wins this game 10.5 points. You know, they may be up by 2 touchdowns and give up like a last-minute score and win by 7 and not cover. So if you're to do anything with that, you're looking at probably a teaser situation or a money line or somewhere in that ballpark where you're doing a money line parlay. Leave it open for the weekend. So that's pretty much my recommendation on that. And I recommend you watch the baseball game tonight. Don't get involved in that because you know what could end up happening? Price could get blown up as he always loves to do in the playoffs, and you could be singing the blues and crying in the morning, and we don't want anybody to do that because there are 100,000 games going on this weekend. So, all right, guys, so that's pretty much going to do it for the show, man. Had a great time kicking it with you. You know your boy can do this on his own. Ain't no problem with that. I do love my co-host, and I can't wait to get the dream back. He is in Punta Cana right now, killing it. He actually sent me a picture of the sports book. Looked absolutely incredible. I've been there before. I've smoked Cuban cigars with him inside there, and it was absolutely fun, man. So, taking a look at this, guys, we are on Freaky Friday, and my page is going absolutely bonkers right now. But I have to give the nod. Angelo Nunez, listen, you are one of the champs. Dude, your stuff is absolutely insane. But I got to take a look at this, man, and I am looking at it right now, and I think that I am looking at – let me just take a look here, guys. Sorry, my music just popped out on me, but, hey, it is what it is, and I am taking a look at – whoa. That just got a little bit loud. I don't know what happened there, guys. But taking a look at this, who is my winner of the day? And I think that I have to give it to my man, Mr. Fast Eddie. With the 4-piece that you sent me, man, you got 3 brunettes and a blonde-haired woman that are absolutely making me crazy. So big ups to Fast Eddie 72. Give him a follow. It's at Eddie NYDER2. That's Eddie NYDER2. My assistant will be reaching out to you, and we will have a conversation and rock and roll with you, brother. So thank you very much, guys, for every single person that's out there retweeting the show. I appreciate it. I just have to pull it up real quick, and we will announce your name on the show. Just let me pull it up, guys, and we'll go from there. Big ups to all 49 people that have retweeted the show so far. We appreciate you. Terrence Mack, Smokey Rodriguez, Frank Vincolato, Emser, Total Sports Edge, Fastlane, Clownman Swag, KK Allen. What's going on, honey? How you doing? System Picks, Joseph Del Rosario, Nauman just followed you back. Justin Hernandez, KMVU, Face Kicker, It Be Easy, Lewis Carter, Casano, Fast Eddie 72. Congratulations to you. Vegas Girl 92661, Ciroc King J, Terry Broussard, LA Wizkid, Nicholas J. What's up, brother? Irvin, Let's Go Mets. Marlon, my man, rocking the hockey. Benjamin Rowe. Hope you got the Metropolitans with me, man. Winning picks. Direct Sports Solutions, James, TBW, Jason Satterley, BT, Almighty Kev, Christos, Angelo Nunez, the champ. What up? Snoopy Betts, Anthony Capriola, JC, hashtag SBTV Nation, our boy. What's up? Sir Mata, what's going on, brother? Yippa82, all the way in Australia. The Hockey Immortal, my brother from Vegas. What's up? Long Woo, killing it, man. Spot Bet, Jay Cass with his awesome soccer. P for Prez, JDH24, Texas A&M. I think they'll get the job done this week for you, man. OJFB and Jason Riley. Guys, we are the biggest show in the world. Having a ball every single day, 7 days a week. Looking forward to getting the Evil Genius back on tomorrow, and we will be breaking down the collegiate slate and having a conversation. And tonight, we will be on KCOH Radio in Houston, Texas. And I'm just trying to figure out if the Dream is going to be able to join us with that. We love you to death. Go out there. Go easy with everything. Whether you're in Vegas or you're doing fantasy. Do your own homework. Take your own plays. Make all your dreams a damn reality and get that money. Let's go.